Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamout.com, BidamoutLive.com, and P.L. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, August 13th. Friday the 13th. Be careful out there, everybody. And this is our weekly video. We're going to take a look and see what's been happening in the auction market, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Liveauctioneers auction that took place in Nantucket last week. This week, it was an interesting summer event that they do down there. If you've never been there for it, we're going to talk about some of the lots that went through and a little bit about that big auction. It's a lot of fun. A lot of local folks go to it, and good things out of local estates. The other thing I wanted to mention was that we've been working on something on this. Well, this is for the global member pages members. We've worked out a way to set up a page we're going to insert into it where the weekly video, this weekly video, and all the videos we do will be visible on there by those users without any advertising. I know the ads drive people crazy, but it's one of the ways we can set this up to do it, and we found a way that we could get some links onto those pages in there and set it up so that they can be viewed without advertisements from YouTube. So if that's something you think you'd like, you might want to check that out on the weekly video. You'll get the regular weekly video notice, but if you want to watch the video without ads, we're going to try this for a while, and if it works out, if people seem to want to use it, we'll keep doing it, and we can embed the video over there ad-free, and I think it's better. I have Google Premium, so I don't YouTube Premium, so I don't ever see ads. I like it much better. So that's just a little bit of a change. And the other thing we're going to do is we've been having those of the global pages notice that Invaluable often doesn't have a lot of content. And one of the things that we've been running into is that for some reason Invaluable doesn't want people linking to their site, and I have no idea why. But every time we've embedded links and connections to display things that they are selling to help them send customers, they get broken. They disconnect it, and I've called Invaluable about it and asked them, and I've tried to get somebody on the phone there, and they will not speak to me. They won't speak to anybody for any reason. I had one of the managers at one point I was talking to over there, and she said, "Well, I'll look into it." Never heard a word. And I got the name of somebody over there who's fairly high up in the company, and asked them why it is we can't. Liveauctioneers certainly lets us, and BidSquare certainly does. Invaluable does not, and I have no idea why. They promote themselves for doing all this, around the web. They spend a fortune with Google, and we're willing to do it for free, and they don't want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that set of pages and insert the weekly video on there ad-free instead. All right, and there's another site in the UK we'd like to add, but they don't seem very responsive either. I don't understand it. That's the outfit called Sales Room, and they have some pretty good things, but you can't create links to them. They won't allow it, and I have no idea why. They don't have an affiliate program. There's no reason for them not to, but they don't do it, and neither does Invaluable. So I don't know. Everybody's getting a little turf crazy out there, I guess. Sell stuff on our site here, the one we set up, and that deal with any of this nonsense. At any rate, just my thoughts on it. Back to the Liveauctioneers sale that took place over here. There were some really interesting things, and there was some good buys. Some prices were very, very strong. One of the things that was in there, and this was on the global pages, was this. And if you've never seen one of these, this is a 18th century Chinese export watch hutch or watch stand, and you'd put your pickpocket watch inside here when you weren't wearing it, and so it was like having a little table clock. And there was a hook up under here where you could attach the chain and so forth. And this is a very nice one. It was amazingly nice. Beautiful relief work all over it. Beautifully decorated. Very unusual. Nice basket of flowers on top. And I think somebody got it for an absolute steal, $2,250. I wouldn't have been surprised if this had gone through the estimate. These do not turn up very often. They're quite rare and unusual. Here's a picture of the view down from the top. Here's a picture of the back of it, beautifully decorated with all the butterflies. Really nice piece of porcelain and very unusual. This brought about the same money as Chinese export teapots that have this same sort of relief work from the same period, early Qianlong. Sometimes people think they're late Young Chen period. I think they're Qianlong. But at any rate, Don't understand it. Somebody got it 2 bids for $2,250. All right, and like I said, that's what the teapots alone bring. And the teapots are fairly not common, but they turn up a lot more often than these watch stands. Very peculiar. And the other thing that did well was one of these immortal plates with the twin ducks. This did pretty well, and it seemed to bring with the buyer's premium about exactly what we've seen them bring on eBay. It sold for $1,500 plus the buyer's premium, so getting close to $2,000. And there you have it. One sold down on Nantucket. And it did almost exactly the same money. The price on these plates are always surprising to me, how tight they are, provided they're all in good shape, good enamels, not chipped. And they all seem to bring in that same price range. And on the Raphael Osona auction, he's a Nantucket guy. He's been doing auctions down there for decades. And every summer, around midsummer, early August, he does sort of a big sale. He does regular sales at other times too, but he does sort of a big sale. It's a mix of maritime stuff. It's 2 days worth. A lot of interesting material go there. A lot of folk art, a lot of Nantucket baskets and all that sort of thing. Some very good scrimshaw. If you're also interested in scrimshaw, they get some real good scrimshaw because Nantucket is, of course, where a lot of the scrimshaw that was ever made was made there. Because of the whaling industry that took place down there for over 100 years. It was a massive whaling port. New Bedford, Nantucket, that side, south of Cape Cod. We're north of there, and there wasn't a lot of whaling going in and out of the Cape Ann area. We were after this area that was focused on codfish and haddock and that kind of thing, and down there it was whales. And much to their horror today, of course, but back then they did hunt whales, and they were essential to the building of the New England economy and the American economy because of the products that were produced from them. It's a very interesting history, even though we look down on it today, but back then it was it built economies and allowed people to stay alive. It was a major important thing. But at any rate, it's an interesting auction, lots of remnants and bits from those time periods. And so lots of good early American furniture, folk art, and it's an interesting auction. I've been to them in the past, and they're worth going to. All right, so it's just a little side on Raphael. One of the other things that was in this sale was this really interesting tea cabinet. It was all mounted with Manuki. I don't know if you saw this. We had this featured in the newsletter. There's a whole bunch of really nice bits of Manuki on here. Lots and lots and lots of them. And I thought this would do even better than it did. I don't know why it didn't. I was thinking if somebody bought this, they just picked all the Manuki off of it and sold it, and then varnish and do something with the cabinet and sell that. But I know you shouldn't do that. But somebody added these, and now somebody could take them off. But because I don't think this cabinet originally started its life with Manuki all over it. I don't think that was what happened. I think they were added. But beautiful examples and lots of them. Somebody bought all of this for just $2,000 with only 2 bids. Again, very surprising. And especially in Nantucket with all the wealth down there. I figured somebody might pay a lot of money just to have it in their house. But you need 2 people willing to pay a lot of money to get any real money out of it. But at any rate, that was a nice thing and quite unusual. All right, and the other thing with this set of China trade watercolors on pith of butterflies. These were beautiful. I don't know if he said who did them. Limqua, Sunqua, probably. The quality was that good. The quality was just that good that it might have been from the Sunqua store in Canton. Just absolutely top quality butterflies. The paper, everything looked to be in great condition. Beautiful, beautiful colors, and expensively framed. These no doubt probably came out of a Nantucket house, and the lot sold for 6 of them sold for $4,500, which I think was a perfectly reasonable thing for 6 of them in this condition. I think Chinese export paintings and Chinese pith paintings in general, the top quality ones, are woefully undervalued in the market for some reason. I don't know why. Well, the Chinese don't buy them back. That's part of the reason why. Americans, Europeans buy them, South Americans buy them. But they don't sell very well in China for some strange reason. I've never understood it, because the artwork is superb. And also, this was in the sale. This is a Chinese export desk done in the English style. It's a mechanical desk with the silver on it by Kum Xing, who was one of the early, very finest Chinese silversmiths, who worked in China from around 1780 to about 1810 or 20, somewhere in there. And that's about when this desk was made. An absolutely beautiful piece of Chinese furniture done to suit the Western market. And they would, to make these, they would send over drawings. They even would sometimes just send over an actual desk and get them to make them. And over the years, I've had Queen Anne style chairs with shell backs on them, and they were Chinese, and all kinds of other pieces of Chinese furniture. But this is a wonderful desk, absolutely beautifully made. Very, very unusual, very rare, made around 1800, and brought over here. And desks were enormously popular pieces of furniture. And this is a campaign desk, so there's handles on the end, and I suspect this upper section lifts off. They typically do, and has a flip-sideable, reversible drawer slide on it here, and so forth. And the silver work was just excellent, absolutely beautiful, beautifully worked in stamped silver. Very, very, very attractive. And somebody loved it, and a few people loved it, and it ended up selling for $12,000 at the top of its high estimate. But I don't think the estimate was all that crazy. I think the estimate, they were there to sell it, obviously, and the estimate was reflective of that. But this was an absolutely rare piece of Chinese export furniture. Great example. It's the kind of thing you see at Raphael's. And then you have things like these. These babies did great. They brought $45,000 pair of 18th century export covered vases, but European form, absolutely stupendous quality. And these have that chicken skin ground on them, the stippled ground. Try to get a close up on it. There it is. And you see these little dots. They call that chicken skin in the trade. And they did garniture sets with this as well. We've seen them in the past. And most of these vases that were in this style were all 8 to 12 inches, somewhere in that size. These vases were 21 inches tall. They're very, very large, in a fairly rare urn form. This particular shape is quite unusual. Beautiful handles, foo lions are there, and judging by the price, I'm going to assume they were in excellent condition. They certainly look to be in excellent condition, and they were unusually large. These are really big, and they had a $25,000 to $35,000 estimate, and they ended up selling for $45,000 plus the buyer's premium. So add on another 25% on there, so you're up to about almost $60,000 for the pair. But boy, you don't see them very often. These oftentimes, once in a while, they'll turn up in the UK at Christie's or Bonhams, but that's about it. All right, and then the Rockefeller dishes. A beautiful, beautiful set of them. Had a very, very modest estimate. I think, what was the estimate? It was $1,500 to $2,000, which was ridiculous. And I heard from a couple of people that were placing bids on it. Absolutely great looking set, and they all look to be in very nice condition. And in the end, they did very, very well. They ended up selling for $22,500 plus the commission. So you're up around $30,000 for the set, or roughly 15 times or so, 18 times the high estimate. So there was some real interest in those. They're very stylish, and they'll look fabulous in a dining room on a rack somewhere. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if they stayed right on Nantucket. And of course, the interesting thing about the China trade and its influence in the West was as a result of the importation of tea, there were lots of tea caddies made in England. Okay, this is just throwing this in as an aside, just a sort of a demonstration of the influence of the China trade and the trade that went on. They imported lots and lots of tea, and tea was very expensive. So they built beautiful little tea caddies out of them. These were all custom made. These are small, only 6 or 8 inches wide. And tea was so expensive they put locks on them, so mainly so the servants wouldn't steal the tea. Tea was very, very, very expensive. Fantastically expensive for what it was, compared to how today you buy a tea bag for 10 cents. It's nothing. But back then it was a real luxury item, and they would put them in these little tiny tea caddies, and they would lock them. And typically the butler or the lady of the house would have a key, and that would be it. And it was to prevent people from stealing them. So they made these very, very nice cases, very attractive, and they today are very collectible. All right, and this is the inside of it. It had 2 compartments, so you could have 2 different types of tea in there, and often the interiors are lead lined. and very nicely done. This one sold for $1,450. And then there was this one made from tortoise shell. It was on there, flaming tortoise shell. Another form. This is sort of a Bombay form, almost French looking, with the ball feet and the shaped front, and then with silver work into it. Beautiful quality, absolutely great quality, and again, a very, very conspicuous lock on there, and sold for $37.50. If those of you out there have seen them in the past, sometimes there will be big rose mandarin jars that turn up in auctions, and they're 15, 18 inches tall, and they around the neck of the jar you'll see an iron ring with a hinge, and the hinge is attached to the lid, so the lid could be tilted back, and on the front of the hinge there's a hasp, and they would lock those, and those were also for tea. And the idea was that if you could afford to fill one of those, and sometimes they were pairs of these in houses, in Europe especially, they would have pairs of these enormous rose mandarin jars meant for tea. And if you were wealthy enough to afford that you could fill one of these, much less two of them, that was really showing off. That was a big show-off deal, was to have those giant things, because it implied that you basically had endless amounts of money if you could fill those vases. And they were used also as decorations. So, because I've had lots of people say, why did somebody add iron mounts onto those? They added them for tea. They added them mostly for tea storage to keep them safe. One of those odd curiosities of history. And all right, so at any rate, that's what that was about. And the tea caddy became an essential part of life once tea began getting exported into Europe and into the United States as a major luxury product. Major luxury. Porcelain and all that stuff was a secondary thing. But that was, sometimes they used to laugh. It was really just to add ballast to the boat. It wasn't really true. The stuff was highly prized, but the real money was in tea and spices. That's where a lot of the big money made in shipping came from back then. Giant tea bins, and you ended up with companies like the Bigelow Tea Company here in Boston and other tea merchants that became highly successful. All right, now what happened over on eBay last week? Let's see here. We'll start with this. This was that statue I talked about last week that I just liked. I just liked it. Nothing, it's not extraordinary, but it was nice size, about 18 inches tall, had a great look to it. And somebody picked it up, I think, for a perfectly reasonable price. $306 plus $35 shipping to wherever you are, probably somewhere around there. Very, very nice thing. I hope it was one of you. I absolutely loved this. I thought this was terrific. And like I said, these very interesting big carvings are also one of these ignored things in the market. Wooden wares are relative bargains from China and Japan, all of Asia. For some reason, wood carvings don't get anywhere near the respect they should, but someday they will. And then on to this, the small rose mandarin terrine, mid-19th century, a nice one. This was a little one. It was only about 7 inches wide, which makes them quite unusual. The sauce terrine, probably. And as you know, some of these can get quite large, and they would have big undertrays and platters to them, and they were parts of huge services of 120, 130, 140 pieces. Cups and saucers and dessert plates and dinner platters and chargers and oval platters for meat, variegated meat platters, platters with liners in them for carving and all that stuff. And they also made these small terrines. And sometimes a big service might have one or two of these. And they become quite rare. And this was a nice one with good color. And I think somebody got a good buy, $405 for it. Perfectly good when you consider the quality of the work and how few of them there are. This is sort of a steal. And then the Japanese Amari plate that was about 9 inches in diameter, early 18th century plate, but a nice one, very, very nice. Classic pattern, one that we've seen. They made this plate in this size from 7 or 8 inches in diameter, 9 inches in diameter, all the way up to 20 inches in diameter for the really, really big ones, 18 inches, 19 inches. That's about as big as they got, but that's pretty big. And here's a perfectly good one. It's still got a lot of its gilt still on it. And somebody picked this up for just $91. All right, this was from a seller in the Netherlands. That was a great buy. This was Hans 3962. This was an absolutely great buy. Absolutely a great buy. Really, really, really nice. There's the back of it. Looks exactly as it should. And $91. Can't beat that. And then over here to this, Hans, his name is Thie. Freak. He's in the Netherlands. He's a good guy. And he had this Yongchen little vase. It's a well-known Yongchen shape, nicely enameled, and this had been drilled, as we discussed last week. So I was wondering how it would do with the drill mark. Well, apparently people didn't care much. And it brought $3,241 drilled. All right, and this is, as you can see by his hand, it's not a big vase. It's probably about 9 inches or so tall, something like that. 19 centimeters, so 8 inches tall. But what a pretty little vase. Absolutely beautiful. Nice enamels, nice soft yellow, beautifully shaded rose enameling in here. And then they did this very quick little black outlines, and then filled them in with bluish green and lighter green enamels for the leaves. And then they decorated the bark on the tree and all that stuff. Very nicely done. And here's a picture of the bottom where it's been plugged after having lived as a lamp for some time. $3,241. And onto this. Oh, this bowl. This was really nice. Sort of a puce ground bowl with red enamel decoration over it. Very elegant looking. I really like this. This is good looking. And it's got a fouled up chin lung mark on the bottom of it. I think it might have been a 19th century bowl, but anyway, it was very, very nice, nicely done. Could have been one of the late Chinlung, not imperial, but still very nice, nice enameling on it. And a number of people liked it. It ended up selling for $910, but it's an unusual color. This color bowl does not turn up very often, and I think in the end somebody got a pretty good buy out of it. And then that vase, the Celadon vase that I had commented on, because they had it listed as an early 19th century vase, but it had a chin lung mark on the bottom. And when chin lung marks appear on some Chinese porcelains, there's a certain number of people out there will just assume that it could possibly be mark and period, and they get pretty excited about it. And this was up to $3,300 last week, and somebody retracted a bid on it. Maybe it was because they saw my video and I thought the thing was overpriced. Still ended up selling for $3,150, which was plenty for that. I think this was a later 19th century example, and probably worth, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 somewhere in there, I think is what I thought last week. I still think that. But some people got excited and they ran the thing up. All right, now it may be going over to China, where somebody may be able to get this off at an auction somewhere as a mark and period piece. It's the rules over there aren't very strict, so somebody may do that. So if you see it again, see if they don't do that. All right, and then here, this nice-looking Famille Rose export, eight-sided plate, nicely done, very simple, classic 1780s decoration. Looked to be in nice condition, very simple, but very pretty. And somebody picked this up for just $81. And this is something I've noticed lately. These very nice Chinese export plates under 9 inches, 10 inches in diameter are bringing very reasonable prices. Under $125 typically these days in many cases. Not always. If you have one that's heavily decorated and very rare and unusual seen, it'll bring more than that. But this type of plate, they seem to be sort of hovering in the $75 to $125 range for some reason, and that makes them a relative bargain because heck, 19th century plates bring that routinely. So I'm not quite sure why that's happening. They're 100 years older and they bring the same money. All right, and then this big vase that was for sale up in Canada. This was a big vase, 24 inches tall. Very interesting coloration. This is all natural with a very heavy crackle. Very old world looking, very old school looking. And somebody bought this, I think, very reasonably, because we've seen these in the past go for $1,200, $1,300. This one went for $679.99. Now, it may be because we had talked about it last week, the summer doldrums, and not a lot of people are looking online, or as much as they used to. So somebody picked this up, I think, very reasonably for what it is, given its enormous size. There was one not too dissimilar from this that a couple of years ago I remember brought almost $2,000 or $2,100, somewhere in that range. So bravo, whoever got that. That was a good buy. You stole it. And then over here to this, the hawk painting. I just like this. I like paintings of birds and animals. This was a Meiji example, Usen signature on it. So it was done around 1900 probably, but very lovely, very elegant, very Japanese. A nice use of negative space around the bird. And he's got his head swung back, how they're often depicted in this manner, perched with their head looking back at some prey. There's a picture of it on the full scroll. Some people didn't click through and realize this is actually on a hanging scroll that you're going to get with it. And ended up selling for just 242 euros. This was on CATAWIKI. And it was not reserved because, as we've been saying, we're trying to include unreserved things on there, so that if you go to the trouble of leaving a bid, you at least have a fair shot of, you're bidding against other bidders, but you're not bidding against the owner, which I think is a nuisance. Now, on to this. A nice looking early 18th century, probably Kangxi period dish with these persimmons running around. It had a nick out of it, but perfectly nice looking plate. And somebody bought this. This hasn't sold yet. This is going to sell. This will be in the newsletter this week. Excuse me. Anyway, it's up to just £9, and that will be in the newsletter this week. So we'll get that out of there. And this is going to be in the newsletter also this week. The perched bird on the rocks. I like that a lot. And then over to we got a few things at the end here that will be on the newsletter page this week. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter page, it's free, and it's the stuff that we find that we put in there. We find on CATAWIKI and eBay each week that we think is worth taking a second look at. And this skirt, this was a lot of money for a skirt, but it was a beautifully done one. I have to say the work on it was really quite good, and they had this nice gilded framing around each section, and a nice deep cobalt blue. And in the end, this did really well. Ended up selling for $1,000 with 46 bids, which was about $400 more than what these skirts typically sell for. So somebody must have really wanted this, or a couple people did. It was from a seller here in Massachusetts, Eric Tipton. He sells a lot of stuff. He's got 5,000 feedback. Good for him. And this was a nice example. It appeared to be in awfully good shape. I have to say that. Sometimes you get them like this where they're as good as they were the day they were made. They were bought, put in a trunk, and forgotten for 100 years, and then they pop out and they look like that. Very nice quality. I don't see any pulls. I don't see any damage. And it brought a heck of a good price, $1,000. All right. And then on to this. This, I think, was a steal. I'd gone on a little rant about wood carvings and how much I like them, and I threw this in there to see if anybody would bid on it. And unfortunately, this photograph does not enlarge. I don't know what that is, why some eBay photos enlarge and others don't. But this is a hollowed, reticulated carved door panel with this beautiful carving in it. It looked to be absolutely wonderful. It had a few minor little tiny losses, but overall, this was a heck of an attractive looking wooden panel to a door, and it was decent size. It was, 32 inches tall and 18 inches wide. So this would have looked great on a piece of, on a cabinet or someplace in a pantry or something. Absolutely fabulous. So somebody bought this for just $110. Absolute bargain. And we've had ones sort of like this in the past. I think they brought 600 or 800. So I don't know. It may be the fact that for some reason you can't enlarge it, and the photos were a little hard to understand. Because it didn't read well laying on its side. I don't know why. Visually, it may not have just read well to people, but this was an excellent buy. It even has an escutcheon on it for a key. Absolutely great. And what is this? Oh, the bronze incense burner. This was that probably an 18th century burner. It could have been late Ming, but it looks Qing to me. It's a little compressed in shape. A nice looking one. At one point it had been polished, and you can see all the polish residue in here. It's been polished a few times probably. It's got a sort of an apocryphal chin lung mark on the back, 18th century, but it is in a sort of a Ming form, but it's also in a Qing form when they get compressed like this. And nice looking bronze. Ended up selling for $2,888.64. All right. Would have been better if nobody ever polished it, though, I guess. And what's coming up? Okay, there's a few things coming up on the newsletter this week. One of them is this nice gold needleworked rank badge with a heron on it. I think this is a 5th rank badge. Beautifully done. It's got 43 bids. It closes on Monday. It's up to $590. I suspect it'll bring $1,100 to $1,200. And then you have one of these. We talked earlier about these chicken skin ground vases, like the one that was at Raphael's sale. Here's a beaker done with that same kind of groundwork here. All right, and this was part of a garniture set at one point in its life. It probably was had 3 covered jars and a couple of beaker vases. It was a five-piece set. And check on the condition on it. Make sure it hasn't been restored. But it's got 1 day and 23 hours to go. It only has 4 bids. And it's at $40. And this should bring $350 to $500 somewhere in there. All right. And that's a pair of shoes I'm looking at. And the mirror, nice looking mirror by Wang Hing. This is a really nice looking one, almost Art Nouveau looking, isn't it? I don't know why they use their phones to shoot these, but anyway, there's a better shot of it. Absolutely elegant with the herons all over it. Beautiful quality. There's the base of it, so forth. That'll be in there this week. Right now, it's up to $338, but it is by Wang Hing. And Wang Hing was a major silversmith, so we'll see where that ends up. I suspect at around $800 to $1,000 is where it'll end up. And there are those shoes I'm looking at. What do you think of those? I gotta replace my shoes. I've worn them out this summer. And the last thing I wanted to mention was this nifty Canton enamel box with a lid on it, and it's done like it's a sweetmeat part of a sweetmeat set. And it works as a box to cover up something. And here's the interior of it. Very pretty, very unusual, and nice decoration, early 19th century. And it has a peach form handle, all right, which is very cool. Bronze peach form handle, but wonderful quality. Beautiful quality on this. And clearly 19th century. So I don't think it's 18th century. He says maybe 18th century. I don't think so. The decoration is very 19th century. And it measures, this is a good size one, 36 centimeters. All right. This is big. This is like a foot long, over a foot long. This is a big box. So it's not a little tiny sectional thing. 36 centimeters. So 30 centimeters is a foot. So you know how big this thing is. I think this is maybe going under the radar a little bit because it looks like a small sweetmeat section that are typically 3-4 inches at the most, and this is a big one. And occasionally they did them this big. They even did them this big in the 18th century. But this is wonderfully decorated, and if you like Canton enamel, I'd give this a serious look, and don't be afraid to spend $500 or $600 on it. Very interesting piece of enamel, but even $1,000. All right, that's about it for there's one more thing. Hold on, what's this over here? Oh yeah, this beautiful aster pattern bowl. This is on CATAWIKI with a silver rim on it. I thought this was quite elegant. It's about a 9-inch bowl, and it closes on. It's no reserve, and it closes in a couple of days. So you might want to check that out if you're looking for a bowl with these aster patterns on it. It's an interesting pattern. They appeared on vases and bowls and occasionally plates, and that was it. They didn't turn up on much else. They turned up on very small bud vases at times. Over the years, I've had a number of them. Anyway, this is the last thing we'll talk about for the day. But it's very, very nice, and so check out the newsletter page. Put your name on there to subscribe. It's free, and you'll get notified when we update it every Friday. And it'll give you a link to come over. And don't forget that starting next week on the global member pages, all you subscribers out there, you'll be able to see the weekly video. This video ad-free, which I think makes it a little better. You don't have to keep hitting that skip button and all that business. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. It is 90 degrees here today. It's pretty warm, and grandkids are staying with us again this weekend. It'll be fun, and that's about it. And we'll see you all next week, and enjoy the rest of your summer. Keep at it, and we'll be back next Friday, if not sooner. All right. Bye-bye. you.